Hey Transtastic, my name is Luke, and this week's topic is our culture and how it relates to our trans identity. Hi! It's been a while. It hasn't been a while for you, it's been a while for me. It's been about 2 months since I filmed that video that I uploaded last week, so I haven't been in front of a camera for a really long time because I've been recovering from surgery, and I basically just forgot how to do this. So apologies for being a little bit awkward and not really knowing what to talk at and where to look at because I literally just stopped thinking about YouTube for a really long time, and so I just kind of forgot. But just quick catch up to you all. I did have surgery. I had surgery on the 1st of February, so that was nearly 2 months ago now, which is crazy. Everything went really well. I'm super happy. If you have any questions regarding phalloplasty, feel free to leave them down below or ask them on my personal channel, because I'm going to make a video there and do sort of like a catch-up video because I kind of just disappeared and didn't really update anything to do with that. Now that that's all out the way, the housekeeping's done, let's talk about this week's topic, which is how our culture relates to our trans identity. Now, I've made a video about this before on Transtastic, and I just recently rewatched it because I wanted to make sure I didn't say the same sort of thing, and I was really happy with that video and how I articulated myself and how I talked about that video, so I'm gonna leave that video in a link up somewhere or down. I don't know how YouTube works at the moment, so it'll be up here, it'll be downstairs, it'll be in the description. Long story short, I grew up in Hong Kong. My family's from Australia originally, and we moved to Hong Kong when I was a year old. Now I live in Australia, and it's really weird and hard to work out where I'm actually from, how I kind of identify with a culture. In the last year, since I posted that video, I've been around a lot of new people and a lot of people who have been asking me questions like where I'm from, and so it's definitely brought up those feelings that I've been having more frequently, and that's sort of something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, actually. I feel very conflicted about my culture. I feel like I don't really fit in, and it's really hard feeling to explain to people who didn't really have that experience of growing up in multiple cultures. I mentioned this in my previous video, but I feel a lot like my culture and my transition, they're very mirrored in that I look a certain way and I am interpreted to be a certain way, but that's not really who I am. I walk down the street and I look Australian until I open my mouth and I speak, and I clearly have an accent, which is not an Australian accent. And until I do that, no one really questions where I'm from. I seem like a white Australian guy, same as any other white Australian guy that lives in Melbourne. That is not as reflective of who I am. I kind of feel like my culture, my experience has been erased. It's almost like when you talk to people who are bisexual, who's perceived to be in a heterosexual relationship, and they feel like their identity is being erased. I kind of feel that same way about my culture. I feel like there's nothing I can really do to properly explain to someone how I feel about my culture and how I feel about being perceived as an Australian when not actually really feeling like I'm an Australian, but also not really feeling like I'm from Hong Kong either. That sort of inconsistency and that combination of those feelings is something that I really can't articulate, and something that I struggle to really identify with, and it makes it really difficult because on one hand I want to be involved and around people who share a similar culture to me, but I don't know where to look because I go to people who grew up in Hong Kong and are like native to Hong Kong, and I don't really relate to their experience either. But I don't really feel that way about my gender, and I know a lot of people do feel that way about their gender, so I guess maybe that's kind of affected the way that I see my gender. I'm used to kind of sticking out, and I'm used to being someone who doesn't really quite fit in. So it was really important to me to feel like I could fit in, at least in some way. And I mean, this is just like a theory. I'm like psychoanalyzing myself at this point. And I don't know, you know, maybe it's not. I spent a lot of my life feeling like an outsider and feeling like I didn't belong. And it's been something that has been really difficult for me. Moving to Australia and starting boarding school when I was 12 years old, my life changed completely at that point. That's a very huge moment in my life, and it's kind of like before I moved to boarding school and after I moved to boarding school, and similar to how I transitioned, similar sort of thing. Before I started testosterone, after I started testosterone, my life is completely different. I feel like it's just interesting that I kind of had that same sort of parallel experience in my transition, but also moving to Australia and kind of being perceived in a different way. But yeah, my culture definitely really impacts how I feel about myself, and my trans identity also impacts how I feel about myself. So both of those things together really have definitely shaped who I am. I would say the most out of anything else, and they've made me experience things that I otherwise wouldn't have. So what about you guys? Where are you guys from? What's your culture like? Is anyone else a third culture kid? And do you sort of feel that same sort of that not fitting in that I feel, or is that just me? I'll see you guys next week. Have an awesome week, and bye.